Today we continue with verses summarizing the parameters of the 8 consciousnesses. And to review very briefly again, what's our mental experience? Our external environments composed of matter, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Matter, everything that is physically existing, anything that occupies space matters. Anything that occupies space as distinct from energy. So matter is made up of a physical existence of, we used to say atoms, and now an atom can be further broken down into proton, electron, neutron, and even neutron, proton, electrons can be broken down into what they call quarks, right? Matter, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Actually, that touch includes is an aggregate, comprehensively include everything that is not matter, not sound, not smell, not taste, but it is still physical that we put it in touch. Through perception, through the 5 sensory organs, we create eyes, interact with matter, ears with sound, nose with smell, tongue with taste, and body with what? We say touch, but body actually it's composes of everything in our body and its relationship, the organs, the heart, the spleen, the lung, all these. We call it body consciousness. So we interact with external environment through perception, and as a result, all these 5 consciousnesses are created. And then after perception, not just perception, we cognize them. We call it cognition. That is the function of the mano consciousness, which is the 6th consciousness. And what is this cognition? Cognition is not just a veridical, direct perception. It goes through more details now into our 6th consciousness. And we can only say various functions of the cognitive processes, including interpretation, rationalization, intellectualization, discrimination, you name them, postulation, many of this in our mind, that works in our mind. And then this cognition are much more powerful because ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and body can only interact with whatever is present. They cannot interact with yesterday, can they? Yesterday is gone. How can your eyes see yesterday's? But your cognition is much more subtle and much more active and much more powerful because they can also interact with images of the past, of the present, if it simultaneously interact with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. And also it can postulate into the future. So that's the most powerful. Do you know that? That's very powerful in your mind. That's responsible for almost everything. You got to watch it. You got to watch this mano manager that is in your mind. If you are a good master of mano, you can teach your mano to be very successful, to be doing all kinds of meritorious deeds, to be contributing to the society, to the family, could be very beneficial to mankind. On the other hand, if you're not a good master of it, and you don't have the right livelihood, the right judgment, the right rationalization, your mano can lead you astray into doing the most harmful things to humans. Which one do you prefer? And then your cognition will interact with your ego attachment, will proliferate, your mano, your cognition proliferation would interact with your ego attachment. You personalize everything. You bias everything. Emotions arouse as a result because we have ego. You may not realize everyone has an ego. And that ego is always sitting there interacting with mano in your daily activities. And sometimes if you contemplate, reflect within, if you come into something that you know that you're selfish, you're egoistic, you know it's not right. Some people may be so alert that they observe it because they always contemplate within. Some people, they don't really know. How come you said this to me? How come you treat me like that? How come you're angry at me? You know, they always personalize everything. That's a danger. If you start to contemplate, say, I should not personalize. I should forgive. That's very much different. And then all these also interact with the store consciousness, which is the storage of all your karmic energy of many, many lives ago, of the present, and it projects into the future. It goes into the future if you are still reincarnating. So this is the whole picture that explains your whole activities. And in most culture, we all have the life objective of living to be happy. If you ask, what's the purpose of living? So, I want to be happy. We always have this life objective of seeking happiness. We want to be happy. However, how do we define this happiness? Most people define happiness in sensuous pleasure or satisfaction. As long as it pleases my eyes, I'm happy. Pleases my ears, I'm happy. Pleases my nose, I'm happy. Pleases my tongue, I'm happy. Pleases everything about my body, about what I feel, how I feel happy. They always define happiness in terms of what? Sensuous pleasure. That could be the wrong definition. But rather, sometimes when I think, it's human beings always searching for sensuous pleasures? Is there a reason to be happy? Usually we have, especially in North America, an individual have enough to live by. You have enough food, you have enough to live by, right? You're not like a beggar in the street. Usually most people have enough to live by, but nothing to live for. What are you living for? Are you living for just having your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner? We have enough to live. We have the means, but no meaning. Why? Why do we have no meaning? Because if you continue to think about it, you want to be happy sensually. But how can you be happy when finally you have to die? Finally, you will be aging out. Finally, you always get sick. Finally, you always have emotional sufferings like depression, fear, anxiety. How can you be happy in the middle of all these? And you're struggling to have this sensuous pleasure. Do you have enough to live by? Everybody does. Do you have enough to live for? Do you know why you're living? Usually we have the means, but no meaning. So sometimes we say, life should be in search of a meaning. We must find a meaning in life. You know why an alcoholic keep on drinking? because he wants to intoxicate himself so that he doesn't have to think about the meaning of life. Sensuously satisfying his alcoholic urge. A gambler. Because this gambling instinct in him has to be satisfied. He gambles all the time. Or sometimes, well, how about someone who is always in search of relationship? That quote-unquote name for the men is womanizing. What's the opposite of womanizing? Menizing? I don't know how do you call it. Do you find that to be happy? So actually, life, we should be in search of a meaning. Well, this need to be in search of a meaning in life drives us to be in search of understanding of life. You try to find out more about life. Once an individual's search for a meaning is successful, so, oh yeah, that's the meaning of life. Not just in drinking, not just in womanizing, not just in being mad about egoistically. So once an individual's search for meaning is successful, oh, this is the meaning of life. If you're successful, it not only renders you to be happy, but also gives you the capacity to cope with suffering. You see the power? Not just the capacity to understand it, but you increase your strength to cope with suffering itself. So is that good enough for a reason to be in search of better understanding of life? That's why you come here to study all these. That's why you want to get into, you're interested in Buddhism. That's why you want to meditate. We just have some students who come here in the first session to take notes. About, because they have to satisfy a credit in their course. And when the most important subject comes up, they're gone. Because they lost the meaning and understanding. So, if you want to cope with suffering, if you have a better capacity to cope with suffering, if you are really in search of happiness, you should be in search of the meaning of life. And here what it is. The Buddha told us about the meaning of life. How many people are interested? They're only interested, oh, you're interested, you're interested. But many people, they say, okay, they want a merry-go-round, they want to search for happiness, that's it. And in the search for happiness, their definition of happiness, they could be hurting other people. They could be egoistically performing deeds that they shouldn't have performed. All right, let's get back to this mental experience now. So are you all in search of the meaning of life? You are. You're on the right track. We're on the right track. So that means you go into Richmond, you go the Richmond path, you don't go to Cook Putlam, because that's your destination in here. Next, we're still talking about the sixth consciousness. Let's guide ourselves back into, we've been talking about the first six consciousnesses for how long? I don't know how long. 2 years already, off and on. And this is, after this, I think more or less the sixth consciousness we already have covered. The sixth consciousness is always functioning non-stop except under 5 situations. The first situation is, if you live in the 4 dhyana realm of Rupadhatu, I don't know how many people will understand this first situation. If this is the first time, you don't know what I'm talking about. What is the 4th dhyana realm? What is Rupadhatu? For those who've been here for a while, of course, you understand it, but let's just go through hyperlink. What is this? We have 3 planes of existence. Kamadhatu, Rupadhatu, or Rupadhatu. We are in here, the Kamadhatu. We're in the world with materiality and desire. We have the 6 paths of reincarnation where we always go into samsara of life and death. And there's a higher level which is Rupadhatu, from the 1st dhyana heaven to the 4th dhyana heaven. And then there's even a higher level which is Arupadhatu, neither consciousness or non-consciousness or unconsciousness. What we're talking about is when you are at this 4th dhyana level, your first 6 consciousness, you don't need the first 6 consciousness anymore. The first 6 consciousnesses are extinguished, which is getting finer and finer and finer in the consciousness. Imagine if you don't have all these foregoing 5 consciousnesses and the 6th consciousness, you could be the most happiest person on earth. Because it's your mano that gets us into trouble. Now, you don't need that anymore. So that's the time when you're in the 4th dhyana heaven that your 6th consciousness, you don't need them because they got you into trouble. They don't work anymore because your 6th consciousness is still absolutely polluted because it always interacts with the ego. But people in here, they don't have the first 6 consciousnesses. But in order to be there, you need a lot of work. You need to do all kinds of wholesome deeds. You also need meditative practice to purify your consciousness to that level. That's most people call it the heaven level. But you're still subject to life and death in heaven. So the Buddha said heaven is extremely happy, but that shouldn't be the final way to go, because you are still subject. After the happiness is enjoyed, after the karmic energy of happiness is enjoyed, you still have to go down to the loop of reincarnation. Okay, so that's the Rupadhatu. So if you're in Rupadhatu, the 6 consciousness, the mano, you don't need them. So no more of those. The second situation is your samadhi is in the 4th dhyana. As all thoughts are extinguished here, practitioners sometimes mistake this state of concentration for nirvana. Sometimes if you are in meditation, and in deep, deep meditation, samadhi, sometimes you're thoughtless. No more thought. No more first 5 consciousnesses. And some people think that, oh, I'm in nirvana. Because when you are thoughtlessness, you achieve extreme happiness because you're at the level of the 4th dhyana realm. But that's only for a short time. Your body is still in this world. Your body is still in this world, but your mentality is equivalent for the 4th dhyana realm. Sometimes you could have maybe 5 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 1 hour of that kind of situation where you are thoughtless. When you are thoughtless, there's no anger, no depression, no anxiety, no greediness, no hatred, nothing of those left. All of a sudden, you are in extreme happiness, like at the 4th dhyana realm, but you're still living in this world. And then when you are awakened from your samadhi, then you are as usual, activities as usual. So that is a second situation where some people, they don't need the first 6 consciousness to work. The third, the Arahat has achieved Nirodha Samapatti, elimination of the 6 consciousnesses and all of its mental functions. If you are an Arahat, you're out already. You're out from samsara. So you enjoy that Nirodha Samapatti. Only for those who have completely eliminated the self, the ego. If you don't have an ego anymore, you're Arahat. A complete elimination of the ego, which is extremely difficult to get rid of. It's just like sometimes when I use an analogy, you get rid of all your dirt and dust. You get rid of even the clothes and everything. You can't get rid of your skin. You can't get rid of your skin. You can't get rid of your body. But the arahant has. This body is a burden. So you already have gotten rid of this body. So that's the situation, the third situation. People think that this body is good, but this body is a burden to you. You always have to upkeep it, medically, physically. When the time is due, it has to die out on you. You got to leave. No more. And that's called death. That's called death. How can you be happy if finally you have to come to death? Are you not in search of getting away from death? The Buddha has successfully searched the method of getting away from death, sickness, aging. And he introduced us the method. But are you interested in practicing the same way? Or you just submerge yourself in the sensuous pleasures and what you call happiness? The fourth situation, you are in a very deep sleep when temporarily your sixth consciousness disappears. Sometimes you could have 1 minute, 2 minutes of deep down that your sixth consciousness just disappeared. Fifth situation, the sixth consciousness is temporarily not functioning when you are in extreme pain or on death. On death, for that short time, before you roll into a Bardo stage, the sixth consciousness, they don't work. They shrink into the ego consciousness. They shrink into their light consciousness. At that time, all of a sudden, that doesn't work. And then you turn yourself into the Bardo stage, which is the next form of existence until your next reincarnation. Actually, we should consider that's the end of talking about the sixth consciousness. With information, with your understanding of all the six consciousnesses, and how does it help you by studying this? Some people like to say, how does this help me if I study this? When we talk about the sixth consciousness, the mano, we said we cognize, we rationalize, we discriminate, and when it interacts with the seventh consciousness, which we're going to talk about next time, say the seventh consciousness personalize everything, bias everything, and is also responsible for the arousal of emotions together with the mano consciousness. So if you understand all these, you may be able to understand how your emotions come about. How do we deal with them? Let's take a look at the practical aspect of understanding all this. How do emotions arise? How do emotions arise? Because we cannot let go of our craving and attachment. When all our six consciousnesses interact with the ego consciousness, the manas consciousness, you attach craving and attachment. Craving here includes everything. Our greediness, our hatred, our jealousy, it includes almost everything. And you attach to them. We all attach to them. That's the reason why when you attach, emotions come up. How? When you attach, now take a look at what have we learned. When we say we cannot let go, we attach. What's that process of attachment? You should know about it now. How do the first five consciousness attach? Eyes attached to matter, ears attached to taste, etc., etc. But you may not know. Some people just look at the theory. They cannot relate the theory, the philosophy, to daily activities. They learn all these and they don't know how to apply this to actual situations. And let's get to them. Our senses habitually attach to external objects, arousing wholesome and unwholesome emotions. Our senses being the eyes, for example. The eyes attached to matter. Vision arises, for example, seeing a sensual object arousing sensual desires. Have you had that experience? If you don't have that experience, you raise your hand. If you don't have that experience, that means your eyes are not functioning. But are you being mindful of what your eyes see? So usually when in the first lesson of meditation, usually the instructor will say, okay, let's meditate. And then, first of all, your eye consciousness, don't use them anymore. Close your eyes. So you simply don't use your eye consciousness, because when you don't need to see when you're meditating. But before you close your eyes, you say, oh, my eye consciousness has been working for me spontaneously. I don't even know my eyes are working for me. I don't even know my eyes are functioning for me. So now I'm meditating. I really appreciate the eyes function. Eyes, I really appreciate what you have been doing for me. You have been viewing things for me. Now, come to rest. Take a break. Don't you give your eyes some break? Are you consistently exploiting the functioning in your eyes? You don't even really care about how tired your eyes are. Appreciate your senses. Let's do it in the beginning of a meditation. Appreciate your eyes by telling your eyes, come to rest, because you don't need your eyes anymore. Take a break. The eyes should take a break. Then your eyes don't attach to sensual objects outside. When you're in a meditation hall, here comes a handsome man, here comes a beautiful woman. You look at that beautiful woman, look at the handsome man, you get carried away. No. Eyes, relax. Don't get carried away. So your eyes always get carried away. Your eyes always attach to external objects. Your eyes hate. Your eyes love. Your eyes discriminate for that short period of time, and then it gives back to the Mano manager. Continue the discrimination. Appreciate your eyes. Train your eyes. What do you use your eyes for? You know what do you use your eyes for in daily activities? Do you use it the right way? Do you use it to build up your energy? Do you use it to contribute to meaningful deeds? Or do you use your eyes to accumulate more bad karma into your storage consciousness? Have you been storing outside information using your eyes to add on the bad seeds, the bad energy in your storage consciousness, which is the alive consciousness? One good example is when you're seeing a porno, what are you actually doing? You're adding bad energy onto your storage of karmic energy in you, which is already have a lot of pornography in there. You're adding on until it becomes very powerful. The bad power accumulating. You may not even realize it, because what? Because why? Because that satisfies your senses, your senses pleasure. Using your eyes as a culprit, as someone that helps you to do bad things. But don't you know that you can use your eyes to do good things? Depends on how you view, what you view. When you are using your eyes not in the right way, always tell yourself, am I adding on to the karmic energy of good deeds? Am I building up beneficial energy? Next, your ears, sound, auditory consciousness, being insulted, arousing anger, being complimented, feeling delight. Your ears attached to external sounds. Don't you realize them? So when you're meditating, the second reminder is, oh, my ears, I really appreciate what you have done for me, and listening to all these. Well, I want to listen. Now come to a rest. Don't attach anymore. Take a break. When somebody insults you, take a break. Don't receive them. Even if you receive them, don't attach. When somebody complimented you, you're feeling delighted. You don't need that delight, because that's just a compliment. Why do I have to attach to a compliment? If I attach to it, I'm building up the energy to require more. I want more of this compliment. I don't like insult. I hate insult. Your ears, the sound. Don't you know that when you're learning consciousnesses, you're actually applying this? Third, nose. You're attached to the smell, olfaction, consciousness, resenting pungent odor, and attaching to fragrant smell. You hate somebody who's just been jogging and creating sweat on their body, and they smell sweaty, they smell terrible, and he's meditating next to me. I hate that guy. So your hatred, your smell, you like the perfume, or I don't know what kind of smell you like. Your nose attaches smell. And tongue to taste consciousness. Indulging in meat eating leading to animal slaughtering. Because your tongue always attached to the taste of animal flesh. You like chicken, you like duck, you like steak, you like pork chop. You don't care those animals are being slaughtered for you. You don't care the cruelty applied to animals. You don't care about how they suffer when they're being killed, because your tongue just like the taste. And when you're meditating, you say, oh, tongue, you have been tasting animal flesh. Now stop attaching. And in the coming lunch, we're only eating vegetarian food. And tongue shouldn't be attaching to external taste, because you attach to the taste, they kill for you. You're actually indirectly killing. Body, touch, tactility, attaching to material luxuries, arousing habitual greediness. Your body always wants comfort. Your body always wants to live in a sonancy, big mansion. You always want to drive a good car. You always want a nice dress. You always want to look for these luxuries items. It does not mean that your body, you don't need, you want to go through the hardship, but your body is always in search of luxuries. And now your body come to rest in a peaceful surrounding. Oh, body, come to rest. You don't need any luxuries. So in your meditation, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body. Can you achieve that? Nothing. Do you know the Heart Sutra? No eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body. And then the mind. Attach to all kinds of thought. Your past experiences. It comes to you in your meditation. Oh, what did I do yesterday? Oh, I have a plan for 1 o'clock. I'm going to leave at 12:30. Should I eat my lunch in here, or should I go for the appointment? Should I go for the luncheon? You're always attached to experiences of the past, your promises, your commitments, your fears, your attachment. So the mind is extremely powerful and subtle in past, present, and future. When you're meditating, there are certain things you dislike yesterday. When you're meditating, you brought it back in your mind during the meditation, and you don't feel happy about it. You cannot meditate. So the mind must learn to let go. So do you know that how do emotions arise? Because of all these 6 consciousnesses attached. They cannot let go. Habitually. Notice that word habitually, accentuated habitually. When you say habitually, you don't even know about it. You just habitually do it. You don't even realize you're doing it. That's the problem. You don't even realize you get anger. You don't even realize that you are jealous. You don't even realize that you are egoistic. You're sitting in the cafeteria in the temple, and somebody is distributing the food, and you look at this person, and how come you gave him more and give me less? Can I have some more? That's not fair. And then you look around and say, how come this guy look at me that way? He's discriminating. You don't even know because you're habitually doing it. When people say, oh, that's not the right way to do, none of your business. How come you're criticizing me? That's habits, right? So, how do emotions arise? Very complicated. This is just concerning what? Concerning what you know. There is other parts that we don't even know, inconceivable. And that's the karmic energy that's already been accumulated from previous lives. That store in your alive consciousness. We will be dealing with that in the 8th consciousness, which is the alive consciousness, and in the 7th consciousness, which is the manas consciousness. We're only dealing with the first 6. But that's enough for you to apply to your daily activities. In other words, in understanding the conceptual understanding of the 6th consciousness, that will lead you into practicing how to let go, how to relax. So your search for the meaning of life renders you to get the meaning and to be happier. And in the process of doing it, you sublimate yourself to a higher understanding in the process of searching for it. Because actually there's no meaning in life itself. It's just a fulfillment of karma. Why are you searching? You don't need to search, but it's good to search, because in the process of searching for it, you render yourself to be more meaningful. What are emotions? We have unwholesome emotions and wholesome emotions. Unwholesome emotions, greediness, lust, desire, infatuation, anger, rage, hostility, hate, resentment, dislike, ignorance, depression, sadness, despair, anxiety, self-abasement, self-obsession, self-pity, phobia, worry, nervousness, insecurity. The list is inexhaustible. Unwholesome emotions. Wholesome emotions, joy, love, we call it happiness, cheerfulness, jubilation, elation, euphoria, enthusiasm, optimism, pride, sense of dignity, love, caring, compassion. So these are basically daily understandable emotions. But if you are further in search of higher meaning, even the joy and the love could be the basis for unwholesome emotions. Because when you have joy, when you have happiness, you will continue to perpetuate the happiness, in search for that happiness. And when you cannot satisfy that happiness, then you sink into depression again, sink into unwholesome emotions again. Because no one can be always happy, because life is imperfect. After all, how can life be happy and perfect if you have aging, sickness, death, and all this suffering surrounding you? I haven't mentioned external disasters that lead to unhappiness. Tsunami, earthquake, wars, genocide, hatred around, different races, discriminations, you name them. How can you be happy when there are still emotions around? Because you're being affected by others. So let's summarize it all before we go for lunch. How do emotions arise? We know emotions are from the mind, not from your husband, not from your wife. Your husband says something wrong, your wife says something wrong, not from your boss, not from externalities. Emotions arise not because that guy or that woman discriminates you or give you an ugly look. You hate it, you hate the ugly look. Not from him. He gave you an ugly look. If you don't attach to the ugliness, there's no emotion. It's you attached to that, so don't blame externalities. It's from the mind. So don't you have to train your mind to get away from emotions? It's not from externalities. Emotions do not come from externalities, but from one's mind, consciousness that craves and attached to externalities. Simply put, emotions arise because the mind cannot let go of craving and attachment, cannot let go of anger, cannot let go of anxiety, hatred, depression. You cannot let that go. And that meditation is to train us how to let go. And most people think that's not important. It's important to go to McDonald's at lunchtime, not in meditation. It's important to go to partying. It's important to go to do whatever is more meaningful than sitting in here doing nothing. That's what they think. It's important that I satisfy my credit by writing a few points to the students. And after I got these few points, and I know that I'm here, I can sign off for that course. Not learning about emotions and intelligence and wisdom. Negative emotions lead to mental disorders. We know all that. Depression, anxiety, sadness, despair, rage, fear, suspiciousness, arrogance, self-obsession, addiction. All these originate from proliferation of the first 6 consciousnesses working with the ego attachment, the manas. The mano is working with manas. Mental disorders adversely affect your health, your family, your job, your studies, your marriage, your career, your business, your public relations. Simply put, they affect your whole life. So mental disorders. So when you trace it back, don't you have to know about emotion? Do you know where they come from? Don't you have to train your mind in such a way that you can get rid of the depression? We're always in search of the philosophy and theory of depression if you're suffering from one. But how about getting practically to train yourself to get away from it? When you have a family member who is suffering from depression, there's no use explaining to him the theories and philosophy of depression. He knows all that by Googling it. You don't have to explain, all these theories. You need to listen, to live with him through it, to walk with him through it, not to explain or get angry or pretending that you're a teacher of it. You just need to listen and need to go through it with him or her, with the philosophy that you've got.